it's not your usual kind of paper. Tell us about the process and the materials you use.
Okay. Well, these are Yupo. The paper is Yupo, which is a Japanese paper that's plastic, essentially. And it has an acrylic ink that has been used to do the actual painting. And I've only been doing this for, about a year and a half. And it's sort of surprises me every time I do something. And a lot of it looks very different from each other. One might think it was several artists doing this. And it's kind of strange for me because, in fact, normally when I work, I'm pretty consistent and tend to follow through on the lengthy processes with it. But these are all fairly recent. And again, I'm quite surprised usually with these things, and they sort of pop up. And I think they're pretty successful. And as I say, they're unusual for me in that the look of this is kind of striking in a way. But there's another person, a student of mine, I think a student of Jane's, who got into this at the same time. So I've been playing off the two of us. And she's doing things that look kind of different than this. But it's, I think it's been a success.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'm going to continue with it. I kind of like to go into a larger scale. I'm used to working fairly large, so for me this is small. And this is actually made in rolls, fairly long. I can't remember the size, but good size. So I think maybe that's the next direction I'm going to take. Well, I'm curious, since a lot of people have not seen these, I'm always curious as to how people respond to this. So if any of you have any questions or thoughts about this, I'd be happy to listen.
What surprises me about your work on Yupo is your immersion into color. Because for the 20 years I've known you, and seeing your work even beyond that, you've been very dedicated to black and white media. And to see like you dive into color with the Yupo and the acrylic inks, it's there's some elements that are very similar to your previous work, the abstraction level, the gesture with the strokes and that kind of thing, and involving spontaneity and accident in the work. But the color to me is the real, it's like, wow. Like, why did you get, what's the deal with the color?
How did this possibly
Yes. I mean, they're beautiful. The color is absolutely, it's just drop dead beautiful.
Yeah, they're pretty intense, and they
Yeah.
stay very clean. And they have a certain precision about them, which is not exactly the way I paint. So that's interesting. And I think there's a lot of possibilities with this. These, by the way, are meant to be ultimately probably should. I don't know. There's been some discussion about should these be framed, should these not be framed, should they? Right now they're hanging from two push pins. Does anybody have any feelings about that? I'm curious. There's kind of an argument going on about
Sure.
whether we should use push pins.
Or in Jane's case, she has a magnet system that's...
Well, the way they're exhibited right here, with all of the back and forth and weaving of space that ends up with your work, it just seems like it would almost be doing it a disservice to mount it flat, whereas this way it's got, just the way it looks on the wall, seems to be an extension of
Yeah, the
a
drape.
a lot of the texture and the things that are happening, even though it's subtly in dimension, it seems like it goes really well with it. You know, all of these things, they've got that going on, even though it's just subtle. I think, you know, this is the way I would display them.
What's really strange is I did some work, I was at the San Francisco Art Institute, not at the same time Jane was, but close enough. But I did work on plastic that was hung on the wall. Large white polyvinyl chloride sheets, talking about minimalism. And these things, so they're probably like 7 feet high, 3.5 feet wide. But they were all grommeted together. And then lo and behold, it was push pins holding them up.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, 72 or something.
Recently.
So for me, that's been interesting that in a way these kind of repeat something that I've done much earlier. But this stuff, when I paint this, it's always a surprise to me. So I do this kind of thing, and I'm just blown away.
Another question for you, just simply on a very basic level of the technique or equipment. It has the look, a lot of the sweeps have the look of a fairly wide something.
It's great.
Yeah, and it's like a spatula. Obviously it's not a paintbrush because there's a different look to it. And I'm just wondering, what is it that you use? Is there a specific material, or is it whatever's handy, or a piece of wood or cardboard?
Yeah, whatever happens to be around.
Okay.
And I'll just
Yeah.
Like
try
a
it.
lot.
I'm
Cat.
pretty experimental. Yeah,
It's a cat.
a lot of this was just done with illustration board,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
taking an edge, and sweeping through.
That's what I thought I was seeing.
Or if you don't like it, you can just wash it out. Or you can adhere water to a certain place and have it drain and control the surface. It's, I don't know, some of this stuff's pretty horrifying when you really get into it.
That's good.
How many colors are in that? I mean, you know, does the ink, as it at various levels of dilution, does it change color, or is it pretty consistent, just lighter and darker, and then you have to actually add different colors to get what you have going on?
All of that. I mean, everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
If we think if it will work, if it will work, a lot of times it doesn't work, and it will turn to mud.
Mm.
Yeah, you'll lose it. I mean, sometimes I'll take a sheet like this, I painted on it, I'll throw it in the garbage can, come back 2 days later, and it's terrific. And then other times, the best I can possibly do is just absolute mediocrity. So it's funny, it's a funny process. And I try to, when I'm doing these, I sort of try to get other people involved, trying to get them to do some work with me and see what, where it goes for them and how we can change and stuff. So I'm really into collaborative. Jane and I have sitting in a number of collaborations. So we will see what happens. I'll just keep going. You've got quite a bit here in this space, so I'm impressed with the fact of the space itself and how well all of this is handled.